everybody. Thanks for joining me for an online PL series focused all around Google tools and Google apps, and then add-ons and things that you can add to those apps that make them function even better for you. Today, we're going to be talking about the first Google app in our series, which is Google Docs. So we're going to learn a lot of neat tips and tricks. So you all know that Google Docs is just Google's version of like Word. It's just a word processing program, but it can do a lot of really neat things that you might not be aware of. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into learning some new tips about Google Docs first, and then we'll hear more about add-ons in the second half of our video today. Okay, so the first thing we're going to cover with Google Docs is something that also works in a wide variety of other Google apps like Slides or Sheets, a lot of the other tools you all use every day. It's called the revision history. So you might know that exists because you all know that Google saves everything automatically. So we don't ever have to be looking for that save button like we were used to doing before. And because Google saves everything automatically, it keeps basically a history of every change that's ever been made to the product that you're working on. And that's what's called that revision history. So you can get to the revision history by clicking on this up here. So if you're looking at a shared doc, it might say something like this: last edit was made yesterday. If you're looking at a doc that you own, it might just say all changes saved in Drive. Either way, it's still a link that you can click. So once you click on it, you see the version history over here to the right-hand side. So this is every version of the document that's ever existed. You'll also see that some of these have a little expandable icon here. So just because it shows one thing here, anytime you see that arrow, you can expand it and see even more versions that happened during that time frame. So you can scroll back until the very beginning of the document and go all the way back. So that's great for when students freak out because they think, oh my gosh, I just deleted everything, it's gone forever. It's never gone forever. We can always get it back through this revision history. It's also good. I can think of one example specifically that we had come up just a couple of weeks ago, actually, at a school that I was working on. And this student was trying to convince her teacher that she had basically a whole document written out, and it just mysteriously went away. But when we checked the version history of her document, there was actually nothing there at all to begin with. So it's good for a wide variety of purposes. Another thing that you can do in the version history is you can name different versions. So I do that a lot with presentations that I work on because, and you all know, like every time you present or every time you teach a lesson, the group that you're presenting that lesson to is different and they have different needs. It's a different time. It's a different date. So you're going to make some tweaks and changes before you present that again. So I will come into the version history and I'll actually rename it. So some of my presentations, you'll see like a version down here that's named KISTI Presentation 2019. And then on up, you'll see maybe I gave that presentation at a faculty meeting, but I wanted to change it a little bit. So I might call it OMES Faculty Meeting 2/12 or whatever the date's going to be that I present that again. So that's great for keeping up with different changes that you've made. So those versions would be the finalized version. So like if I were going to present that same thing, maybe not at KISTI again this year, but maybe at a different conference, I could go back to the conference style presentation and then restore that version. So to restore a previous version, you just click on the version that you want. So if I had named this version and this is what I want to go back to, I can click the restore this version and it's going to revert the doc back to this version. You're not going to lose any of the other work that you've done because again, it's going to all be saved in the version history, but this will be what you're working on from that point on. So I love that tool in Google Apps because it is a lifesaver, like I said, for a wide variety of reasons. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of like another magic trick that I use all the time, is something that helps me with my formatting. So this is just a training example Google Doc that I have, and you can see that some of the formatting is different. I've got different fonts, different sizes, different colors, different emphasis marks on there. And I use this all the time because I'm kind of like a perfectionist. If you know me at all, you know that that's true 100%. And when I create things, the formatting is what I have to make sure looks really, really good. Of course, the information is going to be good, but if it doesn't look good, who wants to take the time to look at it and learn from it? So this is something that I use all the time, especially when I'm like pasting stuff in from other documents or websites that I found and the formatting doesn't work. doesn't look right with what I've got going on, this is my go-to. So if I wanted to change the formatting, like let's say I love this example here, and I want to make it bold and pink, and I also want to do that to a different part of my document. All I have to do is highlight what I want, the formatting that I'm going for. And then up here is a little paint roller. It's the paint formatting tool. So when I've got my formatting highlighted that I want to duplicate, all I have to do is click on that paint roller. You can see it turned blue. And then I just have to find what I want to change. So if I want Google Doc to also be that, I just highlight it and let go, and it automatically changes it. You can do that with anything. So like this is a really big word. I just highlight it, click the paint formatting roller, and then I can highlight anything else in my doc, and it automatically changes it. It's like magic, and I use it all the time. Another way that you can get the formatting to stick, so let's just say that I wanted to do some research on technology, and I found this definition, and I really want to use it in my paper. So I can copy it, and then when I go back into my doc, if I paste it, it looks awful. So what I could do is I could use my paint formatting tool, or instead of just pasting it in, what I can do is I can paste without formatting. And I use this keyboard shortcut all the time. I'm on a Mac right now, so you'll see the command symbol. On any other device, like a Windows machine or a Chromebook, it's going to be Control instead of this command button. So it would be Control-Shift-V, and that keeps the words, but keeps your formatting that you're already working with. So if I paste it without formatting, you can see it took my font style, it took my size, it took the formatting that I'm already working in my doc. So I love using that tool too. Just another quick little time-saving tip. Another tool in Google Docs that kids use all the time, and even adults too, is the voice typing feature. So that lives under the Tools menu. And then you'll see here you've got the option to voice type. So when you click on voice typing, it pulls up a little microphone symbol. You can drag this around anywhere on your screen that you need it to go. You'll just click to speak, and then Google Docs will start automatically typing what you say. So we're going to try an example. You might have to have it allow your microphone. I'm using an external microphone for this video series, so that's why it's not set up. So if your kids see that, just click allow. And then you can see it's automatically recording the things that I say out loud, period. You can also add punctuation. It might underline some things that it thought that you said, but it might say, did you mean this? And that's another thing that we always mention too. Anytime you try to use voice typing, especially with kids and especially with younger kids, it's so important to train them on how to use the tool and not just go to tools, click on voice typing. But a student that's never voice dictated before, the microphone might have a hard time recognizing what they're saying because maybe they're not enunciating clearly or speaking slowly enough for the microphone to catch up to what they're saying. So what we recommend is to start them off slow, have them practice with the voice typing tool, but have them just do a word at a time. Like maybe if you're doing word family work, just have them say out a list of word family words one at a time so that they can practice just with one word. Then when they get good with one word, have them move up to like little short phrases. And then when they get good at that, move to sentences, move to paragraphs, then they can just use it as they normally would. But that training component with voice typing is something that's really important for them to be able to use it effectively and to not get really frustrated if it's not quite understanding what they're saying. So it's really important for them to just kind of start slow and then use it more and more and more as they get more comfortable with the way that they have to speak in order for it to really understand what they're saying. Another great tool in Google Docs. I feel like I've been saying that this whole time, but it's true. There are so many great things in here that you may not just know are there, but they're really neat. Another tool is this Explore button down here in the bottom. I wish I had known that this existed when I was still doing my master's work or even my undergrad work in college, because this would have been a lifesaver. So with the Explore tool, you basically get a Google search engine just right here within your Google Docs. So like if I were searching for technology, our example from earlier, I get all sorts of stuff that I can use. So I get web results, I get images, and then I can also see things in my drive that are related to technology. So this is great for kids doing research. So like, let's say that, I know they would never do this, right? But let's say that I wanted to use something from this Wikipedia article. I can actually read a little preview of it here. I can also click on the article title, and it's going to open that in a new window for me. So then I can read as much as I need to. I can take some notes. I can copy and paste some things into my document. And then what's neat, like let's say I wanted to take, and this is a terrible example, but let's say I wanted to just take this first sentence and put that in my writing. So I might use my keyboard shortcut so that it matches my formatting. And then if you hover over that article, you'll see these little quotation marks pop up. So that's going to let me cite where I got that information as a footnote to my paper. So if I click on that, you can see it automatically put a little 1 right there next to it where my cursor was blinking. And then down at the bottom, it's already got everything that I need for my citation. Now, if that's not the correct formatting, what you can do is you can change it. Like some degrees use MLA, some use APA. What you're using in the classroom might be different. So you can change that at any time. Click the arrow again, or the quotation marks again, and then it's going to put another footnote there. You can edit those and delete them anytime. So if that one's not what I need on there anymore, I can remove the footnote just by backspacing it out. And then it automatically changes the number next to my second footnote to make it number 1 instead of number 2. Another cool thing that you can do with the Explore tool is use images. So what you can do is click on any image that you like, and then click that plus sign. It's going to automatically put it into my doc. So you can see that you can also click on it and see it as a big version and click the insert button there. But if you know you want to use that one, just click on that there. And then what you can do is when you click on it in your document, you can see that it's already telling you where that image came from. So what you can do is you can copy that link to that, and then you can say image retrieved from, and you got the link already there to show where you got your image. So how great is that to be able to show students really quickly and easily how super simple it is to give credit to where they got their information from, to kind of start those conversations about responsible digital citizens and that sort of thing, to not just take information, but to be able to give credit, to avoid those copyright and plagiarism violations that sometimes kids aren't even aware of, but they don't realize how easy it is to find and give credit. So all that stuff that we just covered lives right there in that Explore tool, getting web results, image results, and then things from your drive as well. The next thing that I want to talk about is using special characters in your Google Doc. So this is really cool. If I wanted to just put something special in here, of course we can insert an image of like an emoji or an arrow or something like that. But you also have special characters, kind of like a character map. If you've ever looked up one of those before, it's embedded in Google Docs. So under the Insert menu, there are special characters chart already there. So we can click on that. And then we can go through anything. So we can insert any of these arrows. We can search for emojis. If you search, sometimes you might have to search for a little while to get what you want. But you can also change it by using your drop-down menus right there. So you can get all sorts of things. So if I wanted to put a happy face, all I have to do is click it, and you can see it put that right in my doc. To make it bigger, it works just like a font. So I highlight it, I can make it as big as I want to. So those are your special characters. You also saw right next to special characters an equation button. So you can type in some different things, and it's going to make it look more like a math style equation. So like instead of just using the traditional X, it makes it look more like an equation. So that is also a really cool feature. If you're like me and you love like emojis and making things look fun and whatever for your kids, you can also use emojis and those special characters as bullets. So if you're making a bulleted list, you know that you can do that here. But you can also right click on your bulleted list and you can change it here. So a lot of times I might use the check mark just because I want kids to check off things like a to-do list. Or you can use more bullets and you get that same character map. So I use these all the time. So you can change it to maybe check it out. And again, you can change the size of those. Those will work just like a bulleted list. So that is really, really cool. The next thing and the last tip that I want to go over in Google Docs before we move into our add-ons is how to insert a drawing, like an image, and then have students be able to label that in their Google Doc. So that lives also in the insert menu. You can insert a drawing, and you can either, like if you've used Google Drawings a lot, you already have something in your drive, you can do that. Or if you don't and you've never used Google Drawings before, you can just make a new one right here. So I might make a new drawing. Here I might want my students to label a map of the United States. So I can go get an image. Let's see, I might use this one because it doesn't have anything pre-labeled. And then once it loads in, so you can see here this gray bar, that means the image is not fully loaded. So if you copy and paste that out, it's going to look really grainy and not super high quality. So I always make sure that I kind of wait until it loads in. If your internet's really slow, like today, the internet here is really, really slow. It might take a while, so you might have to click off, click back. I might just go ahead and use this one since it's loaded in and it looks about the same. So I can copy that image in, get back into my Google Doc and paste that right in there. And then I can save and close. So that's in there. So then when I share this document with students, I can just tell them, label the map below. And then all they have to do is double click on it, and then they get all these tools so they can put a text box right over Kentucky and label it with a KY. Save and close. And then it's right there on the map. So all they had to do that was just double click on it, and they get all these tools. They can do lines and arrows, point to things, make text boxes to label them. They can add their own images on top of the image that you've already provided them with. And then they just save and close, and it basically turns it into like a flat image. And then that's what you'll see on your end. So that's kind of our overview of some of the neater features of Google Docs. Now we're ready to stop and switch gears a little bit and move into some add-ons that can kind of make Google Docs even cooler than it already is. So like I said before, add-ons are things that you can add to your Google Apps and Google Tools that kind of extend the functionality or what those tools are capable of doing. So we're getting ready to talk about those, but first I wanted to kind of preface it because the question that I get a lot is, are add-ons safe? Is it okay that I allow all this stuff? So I kind of wanted to touch on that first. So like anything else you download or install on your machine, when you add an add-on to a Google product, it's going to ask you to allow certain things. Like a lot of times you'll see an add-on requesting permission to view and edit files in Drive, connect to Google Classroom, view information, things like that. I will say that a lot of these add-ons are pretty safe, but it is worth taking a look at before you agree and allow everything that these add-ons are asking for. Just take a look at what it's asking you to do or what it's asking permission to view and see and change in your files and in your information. A lot of times these add-ons need that permission because they, like I said, they extend the functionality of Google products. So by adding them, they need access to your Google products, your Google apps, in order to be able to function and do the things that they need to do. But if you, like I said, if you're kind of skeptical about this stuff, definitely don't take my word for it. I'm not an expert in all of this stuff. I'm just sharing tools that I like and that I use a lot. And different people have different preferences. So it's always worth taking a look. When that allow screen pops up, it's going to tell you exactly what the add-on is requesting access to. And if you don't feel comfortable with it, don't use it. So that's my preface statement before we get into add-ons. So now we're going to switch and we're going to talk about our very first one, which is another question that I hear about a lot because we're so used to Word and using all of our cute fonts, and Google just hasn't quite caught up on that regard. So I will tell you that you're not going to be able to install all your KG fonts and everything that looks really, really cute, but there are some ways that you can get some additional fonts into your Google Docs to make them look just a little bit better. One way that you can add additional fonts to your Google Apps is built directly within the app. So this is not really an add-on, but a segue to an add-on, if you'll just bear with me. So if I wanted to add some more Google-based fonts to my Google Doc, all I have to do is be in any document, and this is going to transfer to all of your other Google Docs. If I click on the font options, you might have overlooked this, but right at the top, there's something called More Fonts. So when you click on that, it gives you a list of all kinds of other fonts that are available straight from Google. So to add those to your font list in any Google app, all you have to do is just click on it. Once it's blue checked, it's going to show up in your font list, and that's going to be one of your choices. You can also sort the fonts here by different languages, different like handwriting or serif or font. So you can just click around and find some. It's automatically sorted by popularity unless there's a specific font that you're looking for, and then you can look for it alphabetically, or you can just use your search bar. Once you're done checking, you just click OK, and then all those fonts that you selected will be in your font list from then on. Now still, that may not give you all of the fonts that you want. So there is an add-on that you can add called Extensis Fonts. So first let's talk about how to get an add-on. So you can get an add-on here, and then all you have to do is search. So I just searched for Extensis, and it starts popping up. Then it shows me the add-on here. All I have to do is click on it, and then yours will say install. This is already installed on mine, so I already have it, but yours will say install. You click on that, it's going to ask you some of those permissions that we talked about before, and then it's going to be ready to be in your Google Doc. So under add-ons is where you'll find it. Once it's installed, you'll have a list of add-ons. You just hover over it and click start. It says you have to update it, it needs your permission, all sorts of things. If it asks you and you agree to what it's asking, like here are some of those ideas, view and manage your docs, well, it has to do that in order to give me the fonts. If you don't feel comfortable with this, this is your chance to say no. I'm going to allow, just because I've used this one for a long time. And then you can see you get all sorts of fonts here. So you can change it at any time. Just highlight what you want, click on the font, and then it changes that to the font style that you've chosen. Again, you've got different drop downs. You can sort by popularity. You can sort only by serif fonts. So Extensis Fonts is a way to kind of extend the regular, like traditional fonts that you have through Google. But I will tell you, if you're like me and you live on 1001 free fonts or defont.com and KG fonts are your jam, there's no way to install those in Google products because you actually have to download and install that, and Chromebooks are not capable of doing that, and Google Doc doesn't accept uploaded fonts. So if you're dead set on those fonts, Word is your friend. So Extensis Fonts and using that More Fonts option is a way that I've found to kind of update and upgrade some of the fonts that are available in my Google products. Another add-on that I use a lot, and this one's kind of a merge between Google Docs and Google Sheets, so I'm actually going to I'll give you the instructions in this video, actually attached to the video. We're not going to go over it because it is more for Sheets, but there's a way to use a combination of Sheets and Docs with an add-on called Avery Label Merge. That you can use to print lots of different style mailing labels from Avery. So things like labeling agendas or printing address labels, that kind of thing. Those instructions are going to be attached to this video, and you can check those out. If you have any questions on that process or anything else in this video, of course, feel free to reach out anytime. Another add-on we can search for is something called EZ Notifications for Docs. So this add-on allows you to be notified anytime there are changes made to a doc. So of course you could always go back in that revision history that we talked about earlier and see changes and who had made those changes. But sometimes if it's an important doc or a time-sensitive thing, you might want to get like an email notification that says, hey, so-and-so went in and updated this doc. So getting this add-on and walking through these steps will kind of help you get those notifications so you know, okay, it's my turn to go back in and update this on my end too. So that one's called EZ Notifications for Docs. For those of you who don't know, my husband is a band director, and so music has been a big part of our lives for pretty much as long as I can remember. So of course I have to include an add-on specific to music. So this one is called Flat for Docs, and you get it the same way. Get add-ons, just search for Flat. And this allows you to insert basically like music notation into a Google Doc, which is really cool. So I can click on that to run, and then I get to decide how I want to use it. So I can choose a single staff. It gives me all sorts of notes, articulations, different note lengths, different rests, different measures. I can build like a whole piece of music if I wanted to. And then all I have to do is click insert, and that's going to go right into my Google Doc. A crossover to another Google app, I use this to help an arts and humanities teacher build a Google form as a quiz for her students right after they finished a musical notation unit. So we built all of this stuff through Flat in Google Docs, and then we just took screenshots of the different measures that she had written out, and we put those as images into the Google form. The kids were able to see the notation, they were able to answer her question and get a score automatically through the Google form. So that's a little bit of an app smash if you're looking for a way to kind of use this as more of an assessment piece with students too. But students can use this in music class to write out their own compositions and notations as well. So Flat for Docs is really, really cool. Another add-on that you might want to check out is called Orange Slice Rubrics. So you can do the student version or the teacher version. So you can basically use this to like build rubrics in Google Docs, and it gives you like all sorts of options and things that you can choose from within the doc. And then when you select and score on the rubric, it like highlights those essentially so that kids can see exactly the scores that they've gotten on the rubrics. The next add-on is something called Hello Sign. This one is really neat because a lot of times we have to sign electronic documents, and so instead of printing them out and signing them by hand and then walking back to the copier and scanning them, this is something that you could use instead. So you can see once this is installed, you just sign with your mouse, or if you have like a touch screen, you could even use like a stylus. You upload your signature and then you just pop it into your document so that you've assigned that document without ever having to print it and scan it and do all that stuff. So Hello Sign is a big time saver as far as signing documents go. The next one I want to talk about is Lucid Chart Diagrams. So this one kind of helps make your Google Docs a little more visual. I make things like this all the time in Google Slides and Google Drawings, but this is an add-on that kind of helps you do this stuff in Google Docs as well. So you can see all of the examples here, and you get all these little icons and characters in this add-on. And then you just kind of build these mind maps and diagrams and charts and all this stuff using the shapes and tools and arrows that this add-on gives you. So Lucid Chart Diagrams is really cool for getting that stuff in Google Docs instead of having to use an outside program. The last add-on I'm going to talk about is something called Doc Tools. Let me see if I can find it. This one's tricky. There it is. So a space between. So this one is Doc Tools. Once you find it, this one allows you to do all kinds of stuff really easily with your formatting. So you have access to doing all of this stuff, except for this is really cool. You can sort things in a list, A to Z or Z to A. So if you've got all kinds of notes typed out and you want to alphabetize those, really easy to sort a numbered list or bulleted list, Z to A or A to Z. You've also got things like highlighters and erasers and font increase and decrease and things like that that you already have access to. But that's why I wanted to show this one specifically, is being able to sort things alphabetically in your Google Docs, which is something that was kind of reserved for Google Sheets before. But with the Doc Tools add-on, you can now do that in your Google Docs as well. So thanks for joining me for Google Docs, and we'll see you next week for our next Google tool in our series and some add-ons that will help make it run a little bit better too. See you all then.